Let's go ahead and pray one more time. Father, which art in heaven, thank you for allowing me to be here today, Lord. Lord, I ask as I present this message, Lord, that your will may be done, Lord, and that self and pride will be set aside, Lord, that people may see you through me, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Good afternoon again. What I'm going to speak on today is more of a presentation and less of a sermon. The acronym I want to talk about today is NEWSTART. This is something that's not new within the Adventist community. So what it stands for is nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, air, rest, trust. NEWSTART is something within the Adventist community, is a way of dealing with some of the maintenance diseases that we have today. So some of the maintenance diseases we have is diabetes, heart conditions, heart attacks, and stuff like that. So the concept is that if you abide by these principles, that you should be able to either reverse or definitely have in control some of these maintenance diseases that we have today. So I know some of the maintenance drugs that they have out today came out around 2003, 2004 time frame. And for those who don't know, I'm a diabetic. So I was on these maintenance drugs when they first came out, and now I know they've been out for about 15 years now. So now I know a study that came out, I think it was in Britain, about metformin, which is one of the drugs for diabetes. And what they found out over these last 15 years is that metformin is preventing your body from taking in B12 vitamins. And as a diabetic, B12 is very important for you because it helps with neuropathy and stuff like that. So I know for me, once I saw that study, and I know I wasn't taking a lot of B vitamins in general, so I figured if this drug was preventing B12, it's probably preventing all B vitamins from being absorbed into my system. So I did get some B vitamins about a couple of months ago when that study first came out, and I have seen improvements in my numbers since I started taking the B vitamins complex. So the object here is that once you get diagnosed with one of these types of maintenance type diseases, that the real key in the long term is lifestyle change, changing your eating habits, changing your sleeping patterns, changing how much rest you get. Those are really the keys as far as improving your these conditions and our purpose is reversing those conditions. So I'd like to read a few verses before we get started. We can go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5. We're going to read verse 17. Second Corinthians chapter 5, we're going to read verse 17. Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. So we embrace some of the dietary principles within the Bible and what God has prescribed. We can become new creatures, not only spiritually, but physically. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, we're going to read verse 31. And it reads, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatever you do it all to the glory of God. And then one more, which was our scripture reading, which is Romans 12, verse 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your body a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service, and not be conformed to the world, but ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, and that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So again, one of those things is be ye not conformed to the world. And a lot of times we tend to take on some of the world's advice on a lot of different things, and if we had just trusted God in the beginning, we'd be in a better position. So one of the first things I'm going to talk about is water. So that's one of the things where we start off with. So water is an all-purpose cleanser both inside and outside of the body. It is an abundant and effective agent for washing away dirt, germs, and bacteria. All other tissues, vital fluids, and secretions contains a large percentage of water. Water is of great importance in maintaining health. It is the basic component of all existing things. A glass of water acts as a bath for the digestive system, cleansing and refreshing it. If we could follow the stream of water in the hidden places of our body, we would see it is washing away the poisons in the blood that are circulating through the kidneys. The kidneys must work harder if the body does not get enough water. Other beverages are unable to purify like water. Soda and coffee no more clean the inside of your body than they clean the outside. All the chemicals processes by which the body operates requires an adequate supply of water in order to keep the body functioning at peak efficiency. If water is not made available, the body consequently suffers and cannot do its work properly. A lack of water dehydrates the fluids, tissues, and cells of the body. It causes the blood to thicken, increasing the risk of stroke and heart disease. Dehydration can mimic hypoglycemia, causing headaches, tiredness, and fainting spells. Some practical advices: the body loses at least 10 cups of water every day. The food we eat provides about 2 to 4 cups of water, so we need to drink at least 6 to 8 glasses each day to replace the difference. But depending on body type, i.e. height and weight, you may need more water. So I know there was a medical missionary, he said basically drink enough water until your urine is clean or clear. So that's kind of like an idea. Some people will say drink half your body weight in ounces, and that's enough water for you during the day. Something to keep in mind. Pure plain water is the best way to replace the fluid you need. Many sugar-laden beverages actually result in a loss of water from the system because it requires more water to metabolize the sugar in a drink than the drink itself provides. Caffeine and alcohol are both diuretics, which cause the body to lose water. You need an extra glass of water for every high-sugar, caffeinated, or alcoholic beverage that you drink. As much as we need to drink water, one of the few times you probably don't want to drink water is with your meals. The best time to drink water is probably between meals, 20 minutes before meal, and not until 2 hours after the meal, to obtain maximum digestion of your meal. When you are ill, drink plenty of water because you lose a lot of fluids when you're ill. This replaces any fluid lost during a fever and ensures that every part of your body will function well. Water regulates the body temperature, acts as a medium for cellular reproduction, and keeps tissues in soft and permeable. Water is the essence of life. External water treatments can also be helpful in some cases in helping in sick and to get well. Hydrotherapy was the name given to one of the water treatments, which rally and stimulates the body in the healing process. Frequent bathing also helps our large organ, which is our skin. So some other things about water. Water makes up approximately 7% of a human's body weight. Approximately 80% of your brain tissue is made of water, which is really important. So if you think you're being dehydrated, you're also affecting your brain in that way. We can only survive for about a week without water. Good hydration can prevent arthritis, keeps your joints lubricated. Drinking enough water every day can help reduce heart disease and cancer. The digestion system depends on water. It cushions the brain, spinal cord, and other sensitive tissues. It delivers oxygen throughout the body. It flushes bodily waste. And it makes minerals and nutrients accessible. So obviously water is a very important aspect that we need in our life, and we need to make sure that we're drinking plenty of it. A lot of people say you can drink purified water. Some people say drink water. I would like to say make sure your water is from a good source, and that is not with bacteria disease. I think in the United States, we're more uh, blessed that our water system is more treated than other parts of the country, of the world. I'm sorry. There's other parts of the world where I think it said like 75% of the people in other parts of the world might not have clean water to drink every day. So it's vitally important that we make sure that we get enough water every day. Next thing we're going to move on to is nutrients. Eating often represents good times, friends, getting out of the house, or family get-togethers. But should the content of our food be thought of at all, or its taste is the only concern? The fact is, eating intelligently does matter. What we eat affects us a lot. Our lifestyle and diet contribute to sickness and disease, and also affect our mood, our ability to handle stress, and our general well-being. And taste is not always a good indicator of healthy food. The meaning of diet goes beyond eating the ideal foods. Indulgences of appetite and gluttony appear to be prevalent across the planet. At one time, people ate their own simple foods or their own complex diet, depending on where they lived in the world. Here in North America, we now have a whole generation that has been brought up on junk food meals consisting of hamburgers, colas, candy bars, and fried foods. This diet has not only formed bad nutritional habits, but has also taken away the liking for natural foods, which are so essential to growth and healthy organs. Consequently, we are experiencing new diseases that are even prevalent among our young. So some top healthy tips for eating healthy. Eat a variety of fruits, grains, vegetables, legumes, seeds, and nuts. Avoid animal protein. When I worked for the USDA in the conservation program, there was a website that they had internally for the people that work there, and it shows stuff that was recalled every month, meats and stuff like that, pork, beef, chicken, no matter cows, whatever. And they'll let you know. So I know sometimes when we see in the news, we'll see when it gets into the millions of pounds, then they'll announce it on the media, okay, this package is being recalled, da-da-da-da. But I'm just letting you know, if it doesn't reach a certain threshold, they don't announce it. But there was stuff on that site that was getting recalled every month from like 3 or 4 states, like literally every month. 50,000 pounds of this is being recalled, 150,000 pounds of this is being recalled the next month. Okay, over here in these 5 states, we got a little outbreak here in this package or in this pork package or whatever you want to call it. So you need to understand that the living conditions of the animals are not healthy. That's why we need to go back to kind of a plant-based diet so we're not affected by these things, because people are skimming the system to make sure that they make their money. So if they put a couple of diseased cows into the system for y'all to eat, they're not going to worry about that because they're trying to make their money. So it's something to keep in mind. Also, we want to limit your fat, your sugar, and your salt intake. Eat a good breakfast, moderate lunch, and a light supper. Reason your breakfast should be your biggest meal of the day, because your metabolism is burning its best in the morning. So that's why you need to do that. Don't eat too late at night. And what I found out is, because I was the type of person who didn't like to eat breakfast, one of the reasons I didn't like to eat breakfast because I was eating late at night. Once I stopped eating late at night, I started eating breakfast in the morning. It's kind of funny how does that work. Don't eat between meals. Allow 5 hours between meals, 4 to 6 hours, kind of that range. All that depends on how fast your body digests the food that you eat. Some people it's 6 hours, some people it's 4 hours. That's something that you have to figure out on your own. For me, I'm more of a 5 or 6 hour type person between my meals. So that's what works best for me. Eat at regular times. So, if you eat at 8, then eat at 3. Or if you eat at 9, you eat at 6. You just need to eat on a regular schedule so your body knows when you want to eat. Because once you eat on a regular schedule, you'll know that you just start to get hungry around that time. So if I eat at 9, I wait 5 to 6 hours. I discipline myself to wait 5 or 6 hours to eat. Then I'm eating around 2 or 3. My body gets hungry around 2 or 3. What you will find out is once for some reason you don't, so I eat at 9, but some reason I miss 2 or 3, my time window between 2 and 3, I may be hungry a little bit after that, but after that your body shuts down because it knows you're past your time of eating. And you'll stop eating. You won't be hungry anymore. Or some people say, if you're really still hungry, get a cold glass of water to kind of shock your system a little bit to dissipate the hunger. But once you're in a set schedule, you'll realize if you miss your 2 to 4 clock window, that you won't be hungry by the hour later. You'll be fine. So it's more being disciplined about how you eat. Wash your combinations of foods. You really don't want to mix your fruits and vegetables because certain enzymes in your stomach break down fruits, certain enzymes in your stomach break down vegetables. So you need to be careful with that. Avoid refined grains, and then choose foods that will build good blood. So, added sugar is a disaster, especially refined white sugar. Just stop eating that altogether. That just is nothing good comes from eating the refined white sugar. There's no perfect diet for everyone. Everybody's going to be a little different as far as your eating habits. You're really going to have to kind of work at it to see what's best for you. What works best for me might not work best for my wife, might not work best for you. So that's one of the things you got to figure out because there's certain factors that may play into that. Artificial trans fats are very unhealthy. It is critical to avoid vitamin D deficiency. And for those who don't know, I was diagnosed with vitamin D deficiency about 4 or 5 years ago. For a person who gardens, because I like to garden, I'm out in the sun all the time. You would think being out in the sun all the time, you wouldn't have vitamin D deficiency. But something kind of triggered my mind. I prayed about it, and then my mom told me, man, get your vitamin D checked out. I said, Mom, I'm in the sun all the time. I went and got it checked, and your normal range is supposed to be between 30 and 90. My level was at a 9, so which was like terrible. So that's one of the things you want to make sure that you have your vitamin D levels checked, especially within African Americans or people who have more darker tan skin. That really helps. You really need to get those checked out. So they had to give me a tablet of vitamin D2. It was a 50,000 IU tablet, so 50,000 once a week for 12 weeks, just to get my levels back to where they need to be. So that's something to keep in mind. Diets don't work. A lifestyle change is necessary, so don't do fad diets because they usually don't work. Because usually a fad diet, there's something in the fad diet that you need that they're cutting out. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. So what you need is a lifestyle change because while I may diet for 10 weeks to go to this wedding, and then after that, I'm back to doing what I was doing. Then you just reversing all the good that you do. So what you need to understand is once you get diagnosed with these things, you need a lifestyle change, which means I'm changing my eating habits forever, not for 10 weeks. So keep that in mind. Unprocessed food is the healthiest, or whole foods type stuff is the healthiest. So one of the things I would suggest as far as nutrition is to start growing your own garden. What you're going to find out is a lot of foods, especially in Walmart, Price Chopper, and stuff like that, a lot of their foods are very processed, lack nutritional value. And I know one of the things I learned when I started a garden, we was out in Holden and we had a peach tree. Before that, I hated peaches. I didn't like them. I thought they were nasty because all I got peaches was from the store. So that was my mindset. But we had a peach tree out on where we was at in Holden, so I picked it off the tree and ate it, and I was like, oh, this is what a peach is supposed to taste like. So what you will find is that once you start growing your own food, you'll recognize what the food is supposed to taste like. It's definitely more dense when you grow your own food versus what you will get in the store. You'll notice that right away. So that's one of the things that we need to, I would suggest, start doing is growing your own garden. You can start small. You don't have to be start off with 2 acres or anything like that, but start with some pots, grow some bell peppers, grow some tomatoes, something like that, and then make sure that you're not getting GMO seeds. Make sure you're getting heirloom seeds and stuff like that, because the heirloom seeds are the seeds that you can save the seeds from your food and then replant the next year. GMO seeds, you cannot do that. And some GMO food don't even have seeds in it, i.e. we're now seeing seedless watermelons. So just make sure that you get good heirloom seeds and start a garden. Like I said, start small. I've been on my church all year about garden. Just start small. Just start with a pot and grow some bell peppers. Start doing that for the first year. Or start growing some herbs like parsley or basil or something like that. Just grow that, something that can grow in a pot. And then use that as your food. And you'll realize that your food will taste different with the food that you've grown in your own garden. Next thing will be exercise. We were created for action. Exercise provides greater vitality, extra energy, and longer life. Yet for many, the greatest exertion of the day is getting out of bed or walking from the kitchen to the garage. We must deliberately incorporate physical activity into our lives to prevent sedentary habits from taking over. We live in a push-button society. It wasn't too many years ago that humankind walked a great deal more, chopped wood, tended gardens for food, and worked physically for a living. In past ages, people may have overworked their bodies, but exercise was not a major concern. Today, exercise is the most discussed but least practiced habits. When we do not exercise or get too little of it, our bodies suffer. Inaction of any of the organs of the body will result in decrease in organ size, less muscle strength, and sluggish circulation of the blood. Exercise is very important for every human body. A lack of exercise greatly impairs and reduces bodily functions. So one of the things, I was in between jobs in early, was it 2003, 2004, I got a job at up here in Belton, where they load Mazda trucks onto trains and ship them out across the country. So they get the trucks from the Ford plant, bring them down to Belton, and then there's, on the Army base or the Marine base, there's train tracks behind there, and trains come in and pick up the cars. So the lots, so there's like a military airport that's no longer used, and they parked all their cars there. Well, I was there for the summer, working there, and during that summer, it was hot already, so it was 100, probably close by 100 degrees out there. On that blacktop, on that airport strip and all that stuff, it's probably 115, 120. And then you had the rail cars, which we load the cars onto. The rail cars were probably like 135 degrees in there working. So we would drive the cars onto the truck, and then we had grates on the rail cars, and then we had these things called chocks that we locked the tires in. And we had to work in the rail car in those cars. So I was doing that all summer. So the reason I'm saying that, it was a lot of physical activity that I was doing. So it didn't matter what I ate. I'll go to lunch, go to Quick Trip, get something. I'll burn it off by like the time I got off work, because I was sweating so much and exercising, and we'll go like 8 or 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. So I was doing that for almost a year. Exercise. So at that point, I really wasn't watching what I was eating, because I didn't have to. Because I was burning more calories than I was taking in. Then I got a job, of course, doing something like that. Don't make a lot of money, so I had to go back. Went back to corporate America, started off with the IRS. Now I'm sitting down again. I'm not exercising, I'm not moving. I think I put on 10 pounds in a week, because I'm all I'm doing, because in corporate America, what do? We come to work, somebody has donuts, somebody, we're having potluck today, we got this going on. So they constantly eating, and before you know it, a week later, I had put on like 8 to 10 pounds. So then I had to get back into an exercise program, because I was back in corporate America. So exercise and moving around is important. So one exercise I want to talk about, and that everybody can do, is walking. So here are several surprising advantages of walking. One, walking uses almost all of the body's 2006 bones and almost all of the body's 604 muscles. Almost everyone can do it without having to learn new skills. It does not require any expensive equipment other than probably some nice walking shoes. It is easy on the joints, i.e. versus running. The pace is easy to adjust. It can be done anywhere from shopping malls to the great outdoors. You can get fresh air and sunshine at the same time. By including friends, families, or your dog. One of the things that happened when I was walking, last year we had like a little small tornado, kind of took our fence down in the backyard. So it took them a long time to put our fence back up, because I'm renting our house. So I had to walk my dog every day, and I have a 95-pound German Shepherd. His name is Samson. So I had to walk him pretty much all summer. And one of the things I noticed, not even paying attention, after 2 or 3 months, I noticed that legs were a lot toner, midsection was a little slimmer, all because I was walking, and usually I walked a mile, but there half a mile to where I needed him to use the restroom, whatever, and half a mile back to my house. So I was walking pretty much a mile every day, 7 days a week, until they fixed the fence. So what I'm saying is, even though I didn't notice it until like 2 or 3 months later, walking every day was definitely a benefit for me, even though I do other types of exercises. So I would say, if you're not exercising and you know you need somewhere to start, I would say start by walking. Walk a mile. A mile is not a lot if you really think about it. It's really not a long stretch. Half a mile somewhere and then come a half a mile back to your house. Start there and then move on from there. And it'll be a great benefit for you. An inactive body becomes sluggish. Only 37% of Americans regularly engage in some form of exercise, and 72% are overweight. For exercise to be effective, it must be progressive, systematic, and habitual. Walking is an excellent form of exercise, can easily be worked into one's schedule. Regular exercises provides us with stronger hearts and lungs, and increases metabolism and better digestion, sound sleep, and the elimination of a multitude of physical ailments, and the needed energy to handle stress calmly. So we look at exercise. It can make you feel happier. It can help you with weight loss. It's good for your muscles and bones, and it can increase your energy level. It can reduce your risk of chronic disease. It can help your brain health and memory. And it can help with relaxation and sleep quality. So when it goes to increase your energy levels, I can attest that there are some, like this week, I was very sluggish this week. I didn't want to get up and go work. I usually in the wintertime, I'm on the treadmill doing some kind of routine on my treadmill, but this summer I'm actually going out and walking like 2 miles in the morning, a few days a week. I can say when I first started out, was a Wednesday and Friday, I was very sluggish. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to do it. But by the time I was done, I had a lot more energy. I was alert. I was awake. And it really did help me get that sluggishness out of my body. So again, walking is a very good avenue for that. One of the things about exercise is two things I want to mention before we move on. Cardio. Cardio is key. You need to do some type of cardio in your exercise routine. You need, whether it be walking, running, bicycling, whatever. You need some type of cardio in your exercise routine. And then you want to also build lean muscle mass in your exercise routine, however that is. There's something out there, it's called HIIT, is a high intensity interval training. Sometimes you have to build up to that, but that does a very good job of combining cardio and building lean mass. I think everybody knows Sean T and Insanity. I would not suggest starting off doing that as you can get injured doing that if you're not ready for that, but there's other types of HIIT routine out there that you can do. So for my HIIT routine on the treadmill is I walk for the first 5 minutes at different speeds, and then at 5 minutes I'll run for 2 minutes at a speed of 5, and then I'll walk at a speed of 2 minutes at a speed of 3. Run 2 minutes at a speed of 5, walk at a speed of 3 for 2 minutes, and I'll do that for 30 minutes. And then I do like a 5-minute cool down after that. So that's one of the things I do on the treadmill as far as my HIIT routine, something that a runner told me a while ago. So like I said, if you're not exercising, just start off walking and then go from there. And then you'll figure out what you want to do from there. I always tell people, do what you want to do, what you like doing. So if you like swimming, then make that as part of your main exercise routine. If you like lifting weights, then do that. Just make sure cardio is in there somewhere. So the next thing we want to talk about real quick is air. Air is something that everybody needs. Air circulates the blood in your body. Pure air soothes the nerves. One of the things we need to understand about air is that we need it every day, obviously, but we need pure air. We need to be outside. We need to be walking. We need to make sure we're getting fresh air in our bodies every day. Sometimes that's hard if you're working in a building or in corporate America because you're usually inside 8 hours to 10 hours a day or even more, depending on what you're doing. So I know they allow breaks. I would suggest if you're in corporate America or something like that, use your 15-minute break just to go outside to get some air, get some sunlight, or go walking. If your office has a nice little walking trail, do that for lunch or something like that. But make sure you're getting pure air in your system, because a lot of times what happens is if you're in a building or in a room, especially in corporate America, when one person gets sick, usually everybody gets sick eventually, because Everybody sitting in the same area. The air fresh air is not circulating in. It's just the same air circulating all the way around. So eventually people get sick because there's no ventilation of good, pure air. So even when you're sick, I tell my girls this all the time. So when they tell me they're sick, I tell them to open their windows because you need to circulate good air in and get that bad air out. If you just got the windows closed, blinds closed, and all that stuff, you're not getting no sunlight and you got no air. And then you just sitting in all that disease air is just circulating in your room because you don't have fresh air coming in. So another thing about fresh air, you need to make sure that the clothes that you're wearing allows you to take deep breaths when you breathe in. So you can inhale through your nose, exhale out through your mouth. But if you're wearing restrictive clothing, then it's hard to do that. So we need to be careful about the clothes that we are wearing. Make sure they're not restricting our chest. Make sure they're not restricting our midsection. So we can be able to breathe clearly and deeply so we can exchange the bad air out, the CO2, and get fresh air in. A lot of times we'll sacrifice our health for fashion. With the tight jeans or whatever you want to call the skinny jeans or whatever they're going to call it, that's not healthy. Your body needs to be able to, blood needs to be flow freely, air needs to circulate freely, and we wear restricted clothing, we do damage to our body that we not know that we're doing. The next thing I want to talk about is sunlight. Sunlight has the impression has been given that even small amounts of sun are harmful. While it is true that excessive sunlight can increase the risk of skin cancer and cataracts, sun in moderate amounts has many benefits. Without sunlight, life as we know it could not exist. Fruits and vegetables that receive the direct rays of the sun grow much better than those that are exposed to artificial light. This also applies to humans. Those that do not get a sufficient amount of sunshine experience poorer health. Those who are daily exposed to the vitalizing effects of the sun's rays have a ruddy complexion, or ruddy, and more vibrant health. Sunshine is the most natural and effective antiseptic available to us. Sunshine is also one of the most effective healing agents known. The sun unlocks the vitamins in food, and without the sun's rays, we could not get the full value of from our food. The sun rays gives plants the ability through a process known as photosynthesis to take carbon dioxide and oxygen from the air and combine these into the basic food substance by which all things live. This is done by chlorophyll, the green substance in the leaves of the plants. We are unable to duplicate or even fully understand this process. Energy from the sun's rays also acts on certain substances on the skin, changing them to vitamin D, one of the most essential vitamins for our body. So what are some of the benefits of sunlight? Sunlight converts cholesterol into vitamin D, lowering our blood cholesterol level. Sunlight kills many germs and enhances the immune system by increasing the gamma globulin and raising the number of effectiveness of the white blood cells, which destroys germs. Sunlight soothes the nervous system and is important in treating depression. Sunlight strengthens the cardiovascular system and improves circulation. Sunlight aids in digestion and weight loss, and sunlight improves sleep. And then the sick are greatly benefited by the sun due to its healing properties. So, exposure to the ultraviolet B radiation and sun's rays causes a person's skin to create vitamin D. According to one study from 2008, in a 30-minute period while wearing a swimsuit, people will make the following vitamin D levels. For most Caucasian people, 50,000 of international units are created within the 30-minute window. In tan people, 20,000 to 30,000 IUs are created in that 30-minute window. And then for dark-skinned people, 8 to 10,000 IUs are created in that 30-minute window. So this is where this is why for African Americans it's very important that we get additional sunlight as much as possible because our skin tends not to absorb the sunlight as efficiently as other people. So that's something to keep in mind. The next thing we're going to go to is rest. It is possible to grow either physically or intellectually without rest. Work is an energy expending process. Rest following work is a building up and growing process. In these days of speed and seek, and speed, we see concentrated excitement, concentrated activity, and concentrated business. We are constantly trying to beat time, to do more work in less time. This may make for worldly gain, but it surely does not make for growth. Instead, it tends to dwarf us and sapping our power. Sleep deprivation impairs judgment, causing values and priorities to change. Continual loss of sleep can result in exhaustion, depression, delusions, paranoia, hallucinations, and losing as little as 3 hours of sleep in a single night can cut the effectiveness of your immune system in half. Slow reaction time and decreased concentration lead to an increase in car accidents. As many as 30% of fatal automobile accidents are caused by a driver falling asleep at the wheel. In a classic health study, it was found that people who regularly slept 7 to 8 hours each night had a lower death rate than those who slept less than that. Do you nod off whenever you're not active? Do you need an alarm clock to wake up or sleep longer on the days off? If so, you're probably not getting enough rest. So for rest, sleep keeps your heart healthy. Sleep may help prevent cancer. Sleep reduces stress. Sleep reduces inflammation. Sleep improves your memory. And sleep may reduce your risk of depression. What they tell you is for every hour you sleep before midnight, that's like 2 hours of sleep. So you go to sleep at 10 every night. So between 10 and 12, it may be physically 2 hours of sleep before your body is 4 hours of sleep. During that time frame, when you sleep during the night, your body heals itself from all the things that was going on through the day, repairs the body, repairs organs, repairs cells. So that's why it's important that you get enough rest and sleep during the night. When you only sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, you don't give your body enough time to repair itself. And then you're going on to the next day, probably sleepy, tired, and sluggish because you didn't get enough rest the night before. So that's one of the things we need to keep in mind. Moving on, temperance. Temperance is unfortunately one of those words that have changed its meaning. It usually means teetotalism, and teetotalism is absence of alcohol, or you don't drink alcohol. But in the days when the second cardinal virtue was Christian temperance, it meant nothing of the sort. Temperance referred not specifically to drink, but to all pleasures, and it meant not abstaining, but going to the right length and no further. In the 18th century, writers and orators such as Patrick Henry made a distinction between moderation and temperance. The original meaning was more than abstaining from alcohol or moderation. Moderation implies that we can do anything we want as long as we don't do it too often. But which of the 10 commandments can you break moderately? Some Bible translations use self-control for temperance, but it's more than self-control. It is a God-given sense to us to use all he has given us, only as he directs. All of our appetites and desires come under the control of true temperance. This is the real challenge. Our culture is out of balance. For example, many eat until they can barely get up from the table. The adult stomach comfortably accommodates only 1 quart of food and drink. Eat more than this and it will stretch abnormally large. Blood supplying the needs of the body, especially the brain, will divert to the stomach for a prolonged period. The result is a sleepy feeling after a big meal. This also leads to becoming cranky, tired, and unable to think clearly. Temperance will prevent all this. More than our physical appetite, temperance deals with our minds and morals. Many believe trying everything once is practicing temperance, but many things are a sin to try even once, such as brain-destroying drugs or other illegal activities. Practicing temperance rewards us with mental and moral vigor. So temperance is always going to be one of those challenges that we have in our appetite, in our diet, in our lifestyle. Are we temperate in what we eat? You can eat good food and be intemperate in that and gorge on good food till your stomach gets so full you can't get up. So we need to be temperate in all things and understand that Abstaining from stuff is good. Moderation, I wouldn't follow that advice because, like you said, moderation is kind of like a slippery slope into doing other things. So be careful about what you eat and be temperate in all things and be disciplined in all things, and you'll definitely be better for it. Last thing we're going to talk about is trust. I want to read a couple of verses here. One is from Isaiah 40, verse 31. And it says, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." So that was Isaiah 40, verse 31. Next one is Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. Again, it's Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. It says, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known unto God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." So what do faith, religion, and trust in God have to do with health? Is there any correlation between trust in God and our health? Actually, the list of connection is extensive. Research has shown that spirituality helps to control stress, strengthen the immune system, protects against heart disease and cancer. Beyond these benefits, God promised eternal life to those who trust him. A life of perfect health and freedom from pain, fear, and death. But can we trust God, or do some people even say, does he even exist? And if so, how do you know? So one of the things some of the ways we can tell that God does exist, one is through the Bible. This book is God's disclosure of his own character and his love for humankind. He reveals true story of the conflict between himself and Satan and how it has played throughout history. It is also the original true source of knowing Christ. Through the life of Christ, God sent his son into the world so that we might have a clear picture of his personality and character. Christ's life, compassion, courtesy, and service to others here on this earth culminated in his death on the cross, the most vivid and portrayal of God's love ever seen. Another way is through nature. God created the wonderful and beautiful things of nature for the happiness and well-being of all his creatures. His love and wisdom can be seen in his created works. Though the earth bears evidence of the curse of sin and only dimly reflects the Creator's glory, his object lessons are still present. Nature speaks of her Creator, and perfect and blighted though she may be, God's craftsmanship may be still recognized. And then through others, like the moon reflecting the light of the sun, genuine Christians can give you a small glimpse of what he is like. And then also through his providence, God intervenes in our lives. Look back over your life, you may be able to recognize some of the times when he has worked to get your attention and tell you that he loves you. So when we think about trusting God, we need to trust. He's given ample evidence that we can trust him. So when he tells us that, when he gives us direction in his word about how we should eat, I think we should follow that instruction because he gave his life. Jesus gave his life for us so that we may be able to be in heaven with him. So if he's willing to die on the cross for us, then that should be that should be the ultimate sign of why we should trust him and trust what is in his word when it comes to diet and lifestyle. I'm going to go to one last slide. And this is found in Counsels on Diet and Food. It says, the controlling power of appetite will prove the ruin of thousands, when if they had conquered on this point, they would have moral power to gain the victory over every other temptation of Satan. But those who are slaves to appetite will fail in perfecting Christian character. The continual transgression of man for 6,000 years has brought sickness, pain, and death as his fruits. And as we near the close of time, Satan's temptation to indulge appetite will be more powerful and more difficult to overcome. So that first part, now this is one of the things that I like about this statement is, ruin of thousands, when if more power to gain the victory over every other temptation of Satan. Powerful tool for Satan in these last days. People know some of the struggles I have with Little Debbie. Those were one of my two vices that I had to give up because it was really controlling how I ate. Everything revolved around those two things. And when as I told people about the Little Debbie, that was more of a spiritual thing than it was more spiritual than it was just me not being able to give it up. It's the fact that I didn't have the willpower to give that up. So it really took being really the discipline needed to give up that stuff. And because I was able to give up the Little Debbie, then the next thing I had to tackle was chocolate. And I haven't had chocolate since June 1. So, and before that, I did go without chocolate for almost 2 years. So, but I don't think I've been able to do that if I didn't conquer the Little Debbie thing first. So I conquered the Little Debbie, then I conquered chocolate, and now I'm moving on to something else. So it's steps. Everybody's not gonna be able to progress. Everybody's gonna progress at different speeds, I guess is the best way I'm trying to say. So some people, they're gonna hear this message, and they're gonna be able to give up everything at once and be plant-based going forward. Some people can do that, and that's God be the glory. They can do that. Some of us gonna have to take steps. But when you take that step to give up something, you don't go back to it. So you give up this, don't go back to it. Then you move on to the next thing, and when you give that up, you don't go back to it. You keep moving on. And you give that up, and you give that up, and pretty soon, a couple of years later, you're gonna find out you gave up a whole lot of stuff because you started at this one point. And then obviously, and as you're giving up stuff, then that means you're gonna have to avoid certain things for a while or avoid certain restaurants. So when I gave up chocolate for the first couple of years, for 2 years, I wasn't at the Cheesecake Factory that much because they had something called the Linda Fudge chocolate cake there that I had got every time I was there. So I had to give up things. When I gave up beef, there's certain restaurants I didn't go to for a while because I was trying to give up beef. I didn't want to get pulled back into eating stuff like that. So once you give it up, move on, and then make sure that you're not in avenues or places that may make you fall back into that. So when you give up certain things, you may have to give up a restaurant or two to make sure you don't fall back to doing what you're doing. So these are the things that we want to keep in mind as far as our health, because if we just be healthy and live a healthy lifestyle, then we won't be suffering from diabetes and heart conditions and stress and all these things that comes along, arthritis and stuff like that. If we're drinking the proper water intake, make sure we get enough fluids in our bodies, make sure we're eating properly, and we don't have to worry about certain things like that. So this is the end of my sermon, and like I said, come back at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Rachel will be here, and she'll be giving her second part of what she did Friday night, and I hope y'all will be blessed.